Eddie Guerrero's passing in 2005 was one of the most heartbreaking moments in wrestling history. A beloved superstar and one of the most talented performers of his era, his sudden death shocked the world and left fans mourning a true legend. But now, a new development in his case has everyone talking and re-examining what really happened to him. Something has surfaced that's making people take a closer look at his death, sparking new discussions and speculation. Want to find out what's causing all this buzz? Stick around and watch this video to the end. The struggles of Eddie Guerrero. Eddie Guerrero was a name that resonated with wrestling fans across the world. He was known for his electrifying in-ring performances, captivating charisma, and undeniable talent. He was a beloved figure in the industry, but behind the bright lights and roaring crowds was a man battling demons that would ultimately take a toll on his body, mind, and career. His struggles with health issues, substance abuse, and personal hardships defined his journey just as much as his wrestling accolades. From a young age, Eddie displayed incredible talent and dedication, quickly rising through the ranks in the wrestling world. His journey took him through Extreme Championship Wrestling, ECW, World Championship Wrestling, WCW, and most notably, the World Wrestling Federation Entertainment, WWF, WWE. His persona, Latino Heat, was a reflection of his fiery spirit, a crafty, resourceful competitor who would do anything to win. His catchphrase, "I lie, I cheat, I steal," became iconic, embodying his on-screen character's willingness to bend the rules. However, in reality, Eddie's struggles were far more serious than anything scripted for television. His early success laid the foundation for his storied career, but it also exposed him to the intense pressures that would later contribute to his struggles. The world of professional wrestling is physically demanding, and Eddie Guerrero was no exception to its toll. His body endured years of high-impact moves, dangerous stunts, and constant physical exertion. With each grueling match, the damage accumulated, leading to a series of injuries that would plague him throughout his career. Over the years, he sustained multiple injuries, some of which led to further complications. He suffered from chronic pain, which forced him to rely on medications just to keep going. One of the most significant injuries came in 2001 when Eddie was involved in a severe car accident.
On the way back, it hit me. Fell asleep at the wheel. They said I was going 130 miles when I flipped. I flipped, was shot out through the T-top over 100 feet. They thought I was dead. When the police got there.
The crash fractured his pelvis and caused extensive damage to his body, forcing him to step away from the ring for a couple of months. He had to undergo an operation and had a couple of complications. The road to recovery was long and painful, but Eddie's determination never wavered. Even when his body screamed for rest, his passion for wrestling pushed him forward. And even though Eddie managed to return to the ring, his body never fully healed, and the accident only added to the health issues he would battle for the rest of his life. Eddie Guerrero's tragic story cannot be fully understood without recognizing the toll his wrestling style took on his physical and mental well-being. Eddie was known for his high-risk, high-reward approach in the ring, performing moves that were both daring and dangerous. While these maneuvers captivated audiences and cemented his legacy as one of the industry's greatest, they also took a severe toll on his body. It led to chronic injuries, persistent pain, and the relentless pressure to maintain peak performance. Beyond his injuries, Eddie struggled with heart problems, an issue that stemmed from years of physical wear and tear, combined with his past substance abuse. His intense lifestyle, long work hours, and years of pushing his body beyond its limits took a significant toll on his heart. With pain and injury came another challenge: substance abuse. Like many wrestlers who endure extreme physical pain, Eddie turned to painkillers and alcohol as a means of coping. What started as a way to manage his discomfort eventually spiraled into addiction. His dependence on pain medication and alcohol began affecting his personal and professional life. By 2001, his struggles had caught up with him. Eddie was arrested for driving under the influence, and WWE made the difficult decision to release him from his contract. For many, this would have been the end of the road, but Eddie Guerrero was not one to give up easily. It was a wake-up call, but one that led to a turning point in his life. Recognizing that his demons were consuming him, he sought help and entered rehab. He committed himself to recovery, determined to overcome his addiction. His journey to sobriety was not easy. It was a battle filled with setbacks and struggles, but he persevered. He fought through it with the same determination that made him a wrestling legend. By 2002, Eddie Guerrero made his triumphant return to WWE, this time as a changed man. Clean, sober, and more determined than ever, Eddie climbed his way back to the top, proving that redemption was possible even after hitting rock bottom. Eddie's comeback story was nothing short of inspiring. He quickly regained his footing in WWE, teaming up with his nephew Chavo Guerrero to form the beloved tag team, Los Guerreros. The duo became WWE Tag Team Champions, thrilling audiences with their signature blend blend of humor and in-ring excellence. But Eddie's biggest moment came in 2004 when he did the impossible. He took down Brock Lesnar to become WWE champion. Nobody saw it coming, but that's just who Eddie was. He thrived on proving people wrong. He was even supposed to be part of the 2005 Survivor Series team, but fate had other plans. He had finally reached the pinnacle of his career, yet his struggles were far from over. Despite his newfound success, the years of physical abuse on his body and his past struggles with addiction had left their mark. His heart, in particular, had suffered greatly from years of stress, substance abuse, and an intense wrestling schedule. His health continued to deteriorate, even as he continued to perform at the highest level. The toll of maintaining his in-ring performance, coupled with the lingering effects of his past health issues, continued to weigh on him. During a SmackDown episode in 2004, Eddie Guerrero was celebrating after taking down Devon Dudley when he suddenly collapsed in the ring. Fans were shocked as he lay motionless on the mat. Seizing the moment, JBL quickly tagged in and pinned Guerrero for the win. However, some people say that this collapse was entirely scripted. It was not real. It was part of a storyline connected to Guerrero's brutal WWE title match against JBL at Judgment Day just days earlier. In that match, Guerrero lost a huge amount of blood while defending his championship. According to the storyline, the blood loss had left him weak, leading to his dramatic collapse in the ring. They say it was all part of a show known in wrestling as kayfabe. If he had actually suffered a heart attack, WWE would have never continued airing the segment. Ironically, on November 13th, 2005, the wrestling world was devastated by the news of Eddie Guerrero's sudden passing, an untimely death caused by the same heart issues he had been battling all his life. The cause of death was later determined to be acute heart failure, a tragic consequence of years of physical strain and past substance abuse. His passing sent shockwaves through the industry, with fans and fellow wrestlers mourning the loss of one of the most beloved figures in WWE history. He was found unconscious in his hotel room in Minneapolis by his nephew, Chavo Guerrero. Chavo later explained that Guerrero had passed out in his hotel bathroom with a toothbrush in his hand and was still alive when he was discovered. But when paramedics arrived, it was too late. Eddie had passed away at just 38 years old. His autopsy later revealed that he died from acute heart failure caused by underlying heart disease. Eddie Guerrero's daughter, Shaul Guerrero, spoke openly about the struggles her father faced, especially in his final years. She remembered him being in constant pain, struggling to sleep, and only managing to take short naps throughout the day. His body had endured years of intense matches, and she suspected he had suffered numerous concussions. Shaul also mentioned that Eddie had lived a wild life during the 80s and 90s, embracing the rock star lifestyle of sex, drugs, and wrestling. This, combined with the toll of his high-impact wrestling style, left him physically worn out. She expressed relief that modern wrestlers receive much better medical care than her father did. Despite all the challenges he faced, Eddie Guerrero's life was nothing short of extraordinary. The journey of Eddie Guerrero. Eddie Guerrero's journey was one of passion, perseverance, and an undeniable connection to the sport that ran deep in his veins. Born Eduardo Gory Guerrero Lanes on October 9, 1967 in El Paso, Texas, Eddie was destined for the ring. He was the son of the legendary Gory Guerrero, a pioneer of lucha libre and part of the illustrious Guerrero wrestling family. From an early age, wrestling was more than just entertainment for Eddie. It was a way of life. He grew up watching his father promote wrestling shows in El Paso and would often sneak into the ring during intermissions, wrestling his nephew Chavo Guerrero Jr. These moments planted the seeds of what would become one of the most remarkable careers in professional wrestling history. Eddie's early years were spent training diligently, honing his skills in both amateur and professional wrestling. He attended the University of New Mexico and later New Mexico Highlands University on an athletic scholarship, where he took part in collegiate wrestling. However, his true calling lay in the world of lucha libre. He traveled to Mexico to begin his professional career, following in the footsteps of his father and brothers. His journey officially began in 1986 when he made his debut in Mexico, wrestling under a mask as Máscara Mágica in Consejo Mundial de Lucha Libre, CMLL. However, when he left CMLL for Asistencia Asesoría y Administración, AAA, he was forced to unmask since the character was owned by his previous promotion. This marked a turning point as he began crafting his own identity in the ring. Eddie's talent did not go unnoticed. After the tragic passing of Art Barr, he was approached by Paul Heyman to join Extreme Championship Wrestling, ECW, in 1995. He debuted in ECW with a bang, capturing the ECW World Television Championship in his very first match against Too Cold Scorpio. In WCW, Eddie quickly became a standout performer in the cruiserweight division. He won the WCW United States Championship and the WCW Cruiserweight Championship, impressing fans with his high-flying style and technical prowess. However, despite his undeniable talent, WCW failed to push him to main event status. Frustrated with the lack of opportunities, opportunities, Eddie and three of his WCW colleagues, Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, and Perry Saturn, made the bold decision to leave WCW and jump ship to the World Wrestling Federation, WWF, in 2000. Together, they debuted as the Radicals, instantly making an impact in the wrestling world. Eddie quickly rose through the ranks in WWF, capturing both the Intercontinental and European championships. His charm, wit, and in-ring ability won over audiences. He reunited with his nephew Chavo to form Los Guerreros, a tag team that blended technical brilliance with comedic antics. Their catchphrase, "We lie, we cheat, we steal," became an instant hit with fans. Though they were often portrayed as rule breakers, their charisma made them beloved figures in the wrestling world. Eddie's stock continued to rise, and he soon found himself in the main event scene. His reign as WWE champion solidified his legacy as one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Although he eventually lost the title, he remained a top-tier performer, engaging in feuds with some of WWE's biggest names, including Kurt Angle, Rey Mysterio, and John Bradshaw Layfield. One of the wildest feuds in WWE history was between him and Rey Mysterio over the custody of Dominic Mysterio. It was ridiculous, dramatic, and absolutely amazing. And the best part, Dominic himself recently spoke about it. In an interview, Dom looked back at that time and admitted he loved it. Not just because it made for legendary WWE history, but because he got paid, didn't have to go to school, and got to hang out with Eddie Guerrero. Sounds like a pretty sweet deal for a kid, but in classic Dirty Dom fashion, he stayed in character and jokingly claimed that Eddie was actually his real father. Fast forward to today, and Dominic is set to compete at Survivor Series in a War Games match alongside the Judgment Day. And you just know that somewhere, Eddie is looking down with that signature smirk, proud of the chaos that's still unfolding in the ring. From 1990 until his passing in 2005, Eddie Guerrero was married to Vicki Guerrero. They had two daughters together, Shawl Marie and Sherilyn Amber, who, fun fact, ended up becoming wrestlers themselves. But during a 2-year separation from Vicki, Eddie also had another daughter, Kaylee Marie Guerrero. If you've ever watched WWE during the late 2000s, you definitely remember Vicki Guerrero. She wasn't just Eddie's wife. She built a whole career of her own in the wrestling world. Born in El Paso, Texas, Vicki became one of the most entertaining and, let's be honest, most annoyingly loud authority figures in WWE history. And this is said with love, because let's face it, her screeching "excuse me" was enough to make entire arenas boo her out of the building. She played all kinds of roles. She was an on-screen authority figure, a manager for wrestlers, and even got involved in storylines as a love interest for some WWE superstars. But if you really want to talk about peak Vicki Guerrero, it was her time as the general manager of SmackDown from 2007 to 2011, and later Raw from 2011 to 2013. She knew exactly how to make people hate her, and that's what made her so good at her job. After leaving WWE in 2014, Vicki Guerrero made occasional surprise appearances, because let's be honest, wrestling never truly lets you go. She later had a brief run in All Elite Wrestling, AEW, proving that even years later, she still had that same villainous spark. But no matter where her career took her, she would always be known for two things: being the widow of the legendary Eddie Guerrero and possessing a voice that could make even the toughest wrestlers crumble. And while Vicki carved her own path in the business, Eddie's legacy remained larger than life. His impact on wrestling was undeniable, and though his time in the ring was tragically cut short, his influence continues to shape the industry, inspiring generations long after his passing. The end of Eddie Guerrero. Eddie's death shook the wrestling world, and WWE knew things had to change. His passing was a major factor in the creation of the WWE Wellness Policy, a program designed to monitor wrestlers' health, address substance abuse, and prevent similar tragedies. WWE even established a wellness center to provide ongoing support for its talent. That's because Eddie wasn't the only wrestler to face a tragic fate due to the physical demands and lifestyle of professional wrestling. Several others, like Rick Rude, the British Bulldog, and Chris Benoit, also lost their lives due to the toll of drug use, steroids, and the physical demands of wrestling. Rick Rude passed away on April 20th, 1999, at the age of 40. His wife found him unresponsive in their home, and an autopsy later revealed that he had died from heart failure caused by an overdose of mixed medications. It was speculated that he had taken gamma-hydroxybutyrate, GHB, a drug used to treat narcolepsy, but also commonly misused by bodybuilders at the time. Empty prescription pill bottles were reportedly found near his body, leading to further speculation about his cause of death. Just a few years later, in 2002, at just 39 years old, Davey Boy Smith suffered a fatal heart attack. His body had been through years of punishment, both from the intense demands of professional wrestling and the toll of painkillers and steroids. By the time he passed, he had already survived a near-fatal spinal infection and a serious drug problem, but his heart just couldn't take it anymore. Then, on June 24, 2007, police discovered Chris Benoit, his wife Nancy, and their 7-year-old son Daniel dead in their home. investigators determined that Benoit had strangled Nancy and smothered Daniel before taking his own life by hanging himself in his home gym. His body was discovered after he failed to appear for a scheduled wrestling event, raising concerns among colleagues. Toxicology reports later showed that Benoit had elevated levels of testosterone and painkillers in his system, though no illegal steroids were detected. A post-mortem examination of his brain revealed severe damage consistent with chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, a condition caused by repeated head trauma, raising concerns about the long-term effects of concussions in professional wrestling. Eddie's death was not just a loss for wrestling. It was a harsh reminder of the sacrifices that many wrestlers make for their craft. The grueling schedule, the injuries, and the personal battles often go unnoticed by fans who see only the spectacle of the matches. Eddie Guerrero gave everything he had to wrestling, and in the end, it took everything from him. Though his time was cut tragically short, Eddie Guerrero's impact on wrestling remains immeasurable. His legacy lives on through his unforgettable matches, his influence on future generations of wrestlers, and the deep connection he had with his fans. Also, his journey from a struggling wrestler battling addiction to a beloved world champion remains one of the most inspiring stories in WWE history. In recognition of his contributions, Eddie was posthumously inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, AAA Hall of Fame, Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame, and Hardcore Hall of Fame. His story continues to inspire, serving as both a cautionary tale and a testament to the power of resilience. After his passing, tributes poured in from all over the world, and even till today, so many wrestlers continue to honor his legacy in their own way. One of those wrestlers is Mercedes Moné, the former Sasha Banks, who recently paid tribute to Eddie by wearing a black tiger mask in Japan, something Eddie himself once wore when he wrestled there. Now, Chavo Guerrero, Eddie's nephew, had a lot to say about that. In an interview with Sportskeeda Wrestling, Chavo made it clear that he's all for it. He's seen how much Eddie has inspired wrestlers like Mercedes and Cassie Lee, formerly Peyton Royce, and he loves that they're keeping his uncle's memory alive. "I've never met her, but she's a big fan," Chavo said about Mercedes. "So I don't know Mercedes, but I'm super happy to see her kicking it and doing really well outside of just WWE." Of course, Eddie's influence goes way beyond just tributes. Take the frog splash, for example. That move is practically synonymous with him, but it didn't actually start with him. Chavo explained that it originally came from Art Barr, one of Eddie's closest friends in wrestling. Barr used to do it, and Eddie joked that he looked like a frog midair, hence the frog splash. After Barr passed away, Eddie adopted the move as his own, and after Eddie's passing, Chavo started using it as a tribute to him. Mercedes Moné is just one of many wrestlers keeping Eddie's spirit alive, and Chavo, who knows exactly how much Eddie meant to the business, is just happy to see it happen. Whether it's a move, a catchphrase, or even a simple nod to Eddie's style, his influence is never going away, and honestly, that's exactly the way it should be. One of the most heartfelt posts came from JBL, a guy who probably had the most intense rivalry with Eddie. He's never been shy about admitting that his career skyrocketed thanks to their feud, and on X, formerly Twitter, he kept it simple but powerful. His greatness can't be described with words. Miss you, Eze. Short, sweet, and straight from the heart. Now, if there's one guy who hears Eddie Guerrero's name more than anyone today, it's Dominic Mysterio. Fans love comparing him to Eddie, especially with that mullet and mustache he's been rocking, both of which he's confirmed are a tribute to his Uncle Eddie. Dom posted a simple collage of Eddie, and of course, the internet had a field day, bringing up the infamous custody battle between Eddie and Rey Mysterio. Matt Hardy might not have had any earth-shattering feuds with Eddie, but they clashed plenty of times in the ring. More importantly, they were friends. Hardy shared a picture of them together outside of wrestling, plus a clip from one of their SmackDown matches. His message? The pro wrestling world is thinking about Eddie Guerrero today. We all miss you and love you, Issei. It's clear that even after all these years, Eddie's impact is still deeply felt by those who knew him. Charlotte Flair kept it low-key, just resharing WWE's tribute post with a love and dove emoji. But let's be real, being the daughter of Ric Flair, she probably grew up around Eddie and saw firsthand what made him such a legend. On the day that would have been Eddie Guerrero's 57th birthday, Charlotte Flair went on social media to send Eddie a heartfelt message in Spanish, which translates to "Happy birthday, rest well." A simple, touching tribute to a legend who meant so much to the wrestling world. The Rock, Dwayne Johnson himself, also took a moment to remind everyone just how incredible Eddie was, both in and out of the ring. The Great One shared a throwback clip of one of their matches, and let's just say Eddie was cooking that day. The clip showed Eddie pulling off a ridiculously slick counter to the Rock bottom, and the Rock couldn't help but give props. He called Eddie a bad dude in the best way possible, and made it clear that wrestling him was always a challenge, in the best way. But beyond the matches and the showmanship, what really mattered was the man Eddie was. The Rock made it a point to say that Eddie was not just a phenomenal performer, but a genuinely good human being. And then he signed off with a classic Guerrero reference. "Miss you and thanks for the house, brother." The tributes will never stop because Eddie Guerrero wasn't just a great wrestler. wrestler, he was one of a kind. Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio weren't just tag team partners, they were brothers. And even though it's been a lot of years since Eddie passed away, the bond they shared is still as strong as ever. On the anniversary of Eddie's passing, Rey took to Instagram to post a heartfelt tribute to his late friend. He shared a video filled with some of their most unforgettable moments together, including that epic tag team championship win, but it was his message that really hit home. Rey talked about how he often imagines what it would be like if Eddie were still here, standing by his son Dominic's side. But even though that isn't reality, Rey finds comfort in the fact that Dominic got to be by Eddie's side before he left this world. Viva La Raza forever. If you enjoyed this video, just click on any of the cards showing on your screen to watch more content.